What's up, Manga Heads? This is me, Dark Fox. I'm here with ARG Bombshell, aka Amber, and we are here to talk about the Netflix live-action One Piece show.
Wealth, fame, power. I found everything this world has to offer. Free yourselves. Take to the seas. My treasure is yours to find.
It's been a long time coming, and I think us two on the video were the only two people on the entire planet who were positive and very, we thought it was going to be good. Turns out we're vindicated, and it was actually pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, all of my friends were like, "Oh, it's going to be horrible," like every other every other Netflix live action.
Yes.
But I had faith because of Oda Sensei. So.
Yeah, I also had faith just because various reasons we were getting into. But before moving on, I want to say that if this is the first time you're tuning in, or if you're a returning viewer, why don't you hit that subscribe button or that like button? It really helps us out. And if you have any opinions about what we talk about, leave a comment and say something about it, right?
Yeah, just really smash that like and subscribe.
I was trying not to go for the cliches, and I was trying to be genuine. But that stuff does help YouTubers. I don't know how long this has going to last on me because my head is too big for it. But we're here to talk about it, and I think the elephant in the room is, well, first, I'm a casual One Piece fan. I admire it. I think it's a pretty amazing manga, pretty amazing art. It's obviously super creative, but I don't read it. I watched some of the anime. I know a lot of the spoilers through osmosis. ARG Bombshell, however, you are a massive fan.
Yeah, One Piece got me through graduate school, so...
Wowee, Amber, you sure have a lot of One Piece stuff.
Perhaps.
How long have you been buying and collecting One Piece stuff?
Well, like I said, I started watching One Piece in graduate school, and I went there from 2017 to 2019. And it wasn't like the first year either, so...
Okay, so you've been just buying, collecting stuff since then?
Yeah, pretty much. So I'd say probably about since 2018.
Yeah, I mean, it shows it's a pretty handsome collection. And it's even more impressive because you have way more stuff than just One Piece. You might have just seen some One Piece stuff that Amber owns, but all around surrounding it was just like tons of My Hero, Naruto, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's pretty impressive, as you can see some of the stuff behind us. So the One Piece show. So this was obviously the Netflix production, but the production studio is Tomorrow Studios, and they, from what I understand, they did Cowboy Bebop Netflix anime or live action, and that's pretty universally derided. People didn't like that show. I'm actually relatively positive of that show. I separate a lot of the good things about it from the bad things about it, such as the production and the casting. I thought was really, really good. A lot of that stuff carries over to the One Piece. I think the casting in One Piece is shockingly good, especially when we talk about Luffy and Zoro. I think it's kind of like you can't get better than that.
McKenyu is a perfect Zoro for me.
Yeah, he's really impressive. The way he kind of embodies that character, and yeah.
Arlen was really great too.
Arlen was good.
I was very surprised by him.
I hope I'm not being racist against short people right now.
No.
But
I don't know if it's a race.
He's an actor, and he's human size.
Heightist.
He's not he's not like Arlong. Arlong was like 8 feet tall or something, right?
There's a lot of absurd heights in One Piece, so
yeah. So
his nose was also like 50 times as long. So
yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that in One Piece where like these characters, these actors embody the character really, really well. And if you're familiar with the source material, you have a little bit of dissonance when you kind of have that image of this character that's kind of cartoonish proportions and it's overlaid on this actor with makeup. It's just kind of like, I guess you could say it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. They did a really good job. The other alternative to that would be just making Arlong full CG, and that would have looked way worse in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about the prospects of CG characters in the future because they're going to have to use CG for Chopper.
They will for Chopper and for Brook, but I mean, at least for the Fishman in the season. Spoiler if you haven't seen the last couple episodes, there's Fishman. So they I've seen behind the scenes photos, that was all makeup. It wasn't CGI. They were wearing that.
Yeah, it was all prosthetics and makeup. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a really good production, and that's what I liked about the Cowboy Bebop show. I just want to talk about the Cowboy Bebop show really briefly, because I think it's interesting how one show people really just dismissed it, really, really disliked it, and One Piece has pretty much been embraced. People, anybody who watches it, at least thinks it's okay. If not, they really, really like it. But so the main issue, and I've talked about this on the podcast stuff before, but I'll be kind of succinct with it. But the main issue with the Cowboy Bebop live action show is that they tried too hard to make a long form storyline with Cowboy Bebop. You just watched Cowboy Bebop for the first time recently, right?
The anime, yes. I haven't seen the live action yet.
Yeah, so in my opinion, and you probably, I actually didn't like this about Cowboy Bebop, but in my opinion, the good part about Cowboy Bebop is how there's so much self-contained storylines, and they're so kind of unique and weird, and it's almost like watching a different movie from one episode to one episode. There's that one that everybody really, really liked except for you. That's about the refrigerator with the monster in it.
Yeah.
Yes, that one it's a famous episode. Toys in the Attic is called. Very different, just from other episodes. Suddenly it's a horror movie, right? That is kind of like the joy of Cowboy Bebop, and a lot of people say it's kind of it's almost like it's kind of jazzy, right? Because it's free form. It kind of it goes on to these unique solos, and it follows these musical train of thoughts. That's what people would argue. It's what the structure it's Cowboy Bebop, and the Netflix live action show. They created the backstory between Vicious and Spike, and they kind of spoon fed it to you slowly over the series, making this mystery box style TV show that I really didn't think was appropriate. I really didn't think it fit Cowboy Bebop at all. And the weird thing is that they did the same thing again with One Piece, but in One Piece it kind of worked a little better, which is the whole Garp and Kobe storyline. Kobe is one of the first characters that Luffy meets in the series, and in the manga and anime he kind of just goes off and does his own thing, and he reappears later in the manga, right?
Yeah, that was actually something I was going to talk about today, as far as the Garp, Kobe, and Helmeppo, who they don't even name in the show, but his name is Helmeppo, the blonde guy.
With the helmet.
Yeah, the helmet hair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Helmeppo. But so the three of them, after Garp takes the two of them on to his crew, you don't see them again until the Water 7 arc, if I recall correctly, which would be several seasons from now.
Yeah, so they took those characters and they turned them into almost a parallel storyline for Luffy and the Straw Hats. Parallel, opposite, but also synergistic in the sense that both these groups are kind of following their code. Luffy's all about freedom and adventure, and Kobe is kind of more about justice and doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. So it kind of annoys me that they did the same thing that ruined Cowboy Bebop, but I can't fault them too much for One Piece, is because they kind of fit the One Piece storyline fine.
Well, and it's also, I assume they want to get use out of the actors while they have them now, as opposed to just make them appear as guest stars for an episode, maybe 4 seasons from now for an episode.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how fast they can film this show, because it's a long show, and by the time they get, I don't know, to some of the later seasons, like Luffy's gonna have wrinkles in his face and like.
Well, I mean, and Yaki Godoi is only like 19 years old, right? So
it takes a long time to make this stuff.
That's fair.
He's gonna be 35 by the time they get to, I don't know, a Rabbit Village or whatever the hell that arc was.
That's fair. I do think I read somewhere that pre-production for the show started in 2019, but obviously that was disrupted by the world apocalypse, essentially.
So, what you have with the One Piece show is a pretty high production value. It does look cheap sometimes. It looks fake and artificial sometimes, but it looks elaborate. You have good casting, and the plot is okay. The plot, they're basically recreating the plot from the show and doing
The
kind
sets are gorgeous.
Yes, yeah, they're doing minor changes to stuff, but I think Tomorrow Studios. I guess I'm happy they got another shot at it because they weren't like. Their heads weren't cut off after Cowboy Bebop had such a bad reaction, or whatever. Like they managed.
She got a second chance.
They managed to stay alive and actually make another show. Your kitty's jumping all over the place.
Yes, she'll be up there watching us in a second.
Okay.
See. So, for fans watching the live action before you've either read the manga or watched the anime, what you could expect is that the live action predominantly covers the first 96 chapters of the manga, about thereabouts, and about the first 45 episodes of the anime.
Which is, it's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot for 8 episodes. There are long episodes, but they definitely did a pretty smart trimming and kind of combining stuff.
They definitely hit all of the important notes and things that are really essentially key for their characters.
Yes. I will say this. I think the lowest point in the series, is it the second episode where they fight Buggy? Or the third episode?
The second episode.
That episode was kind of boring.
Yes.
I don't know if it was the sets because they were like in a carnival tent, like a circus tent. And it was kind of dark.
It was very dark.
It was kind of like moody lighting. So like it looks fine in one scene, but like 90% of the episode looked that way. And I think Buggy's fine. The actor they got out with Buggy, he's committed. He's committed to the role. I think he does a good job. But just something about that episode was kind of boring to me. Even though it had a clown who would split apart and do all this crazy shit, it was way over the top. But I was like bored. I was bored with that episode. That's like the worst episode, and it's a shame it's the second episode. It does pay off because they, similar to Kobe, they do keep Buggy around a little bit, which is the manga didn't necessarily do in that manner.
Yeah, there was a little bit different way. So I do think Jeff Ward, who plays Buggy, he did a pretty great job, but it is definitely a more sinister, serious take on Buggy. And that's something that I kind of felt like throughout this, is they took some things more seriously than the lighthearted goofiness that you expect in the anime, but there's still plenty of goofy things that are in the live action as well.
Yeah.
But, like, Buggy, his episodes were very dark and more serious, but at the same time, that, like, even though part of that was a little bit boring, that actually wasn't my least favorite.
Oh, what was your least favorite?
My least favorite was when they were fighting the Black Cat Pirates in Kaya's mansion, yes. Because I cannot, even in the anime, I cannot take the Black Cat Pirates seriously. Like, people going around just hissing at you. Like, they're so weird. Just, I couldn't. And, like, the CGI was, like, especially goofy when Kuro is doing the Shav move, where they shift really quickly.
The Flash.
Yeah. So, like, that's the thing as the series go on. Like, there's different characters that can do that. But it just looked so goofy.
But you talked about the darkness of the show, and that's something that we talked about on the podcast a little bit. It is weird. So One Piece is just a weird story in general, right? But overall, the manga and anime are more lighthearted in tone than this live action show. So A lot of times when they're filming the scenes and the sets, everything has this kind of like realistic, grounded look, and it makes the goofy stuff stand out even more, even weirder when it cuts to like, I don't know, I guess Zeph with his like braided like mustache and stuff like that. Like they filmed the Baratier.
Baratier.
Baratier. You're trying to correct me even though I got it right.
You got it right. I'm so proud of you.
The Baratier. So they filmed that set. It's an impressive set. They did a good job with the exterior and interior. I'm not sure how much of that was green screen composite, but it's a really big exterior.
It's pretty big, yeah.
And then inside, it all looks interesting and kind of lived in and kind of grounded. Good, like really impressive set work. And then it cuts to the Straw Hats Pirates or Zeph, like I said, and it's like, okay, that's really really goofy. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but it is a part of the live action series that doesn't feel as cohesive as the anime does, which I guess makes sense because anime is cartoons. It could be anything it wants to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely stands out. The weird goofy stuff doesn't fit in all the time. But I'm glad they kept it in. I think that was the fear, is that they were going to turn it into like some weird Nolan One Piece like universe where like there wasn't any magic or anything. There wasn't any like special effects. It was all like grounded. Luffy, instead of being a rubber person, he was just a contortionist or something, or those gritty retakes of a story.
Some sort of weird thing, yeah. Like, well, so I watched the first 3 episodes of the season with a friend who has not seen or read any of One Piece, and so like when at the very beginning when Luffy's like talking fourth wall to the camera and says like, oh, I don't really know how to swim or whatever, she's like, doesn't make sense. Like, why is he going on this tiny little rowboat or anything? And then when she sees him do like a gum move for the first time, she's like, what is going on here? And I have to like explain, like, I'm like, okay, let me pause and explain all about Devil Fruits to you.
Yeah. It is interesting how a lot of people would not know that that's just part of the show. And then early on when he's fighting the big girl, the Alvida, yeah. He does like the whoop where he bends his body and dodges her. That's like one of the first times you see him do something. You're like, it's a big shocker moment. But I'm glad they put it in there like that, as opposed to just explaining it. I think that would have killed it if it started with like, long ago the devil made 5 new fruits. These fruits imparted power onto people. Like that kills. I think part of One Piece. I think one of the reasons people like One Piece is that it does feel like you're on an adventure, because it's one, it never freaking ends, but 2, like it just takes you a lot of different places, and it's kind of like it's an emotionally exhaustive show. It really tries to like pull on your heartstrings, and just doing all of like putting too much explanations into it would kill that, in my opinion.
While you're on that train of thought, though, I have to say, do you think if the show keeps getting renewed, what will end or catch up first? This live action, or will Oda finish One Piece before the show ends?
I think Oda will finish One Piece, because
we're at 26 years now.
Yeah, so the reason why I think is because the TV show is going to have a hard time keeping up with any kind of pace of the manga, because correct me, or I may not actually know, I may be wrong about this, but I don't think the TV show is using non-union workers. I think it was unionized, working on that, and they cannot rush.
Yeah.
Like the union will not let them. Anime studios, they can work like a sweatshop, unfortunately, and they could churn stuff out and catch up quick. Actors and set dressers and that stuff. They don't have the option to move as quickly as maybe the studios would wanted to move. Yeah, so because of just real logistical stuff, I think it's almost impossible for a live action to catch up to the manga. Even if Oda really goes out deep and he draws this for 15 more years. I still don't think it will happen.
15 more years. I can't take 15 more years of this. He told me like 5. Not me personally, but the world.
Oda rang you up.
Just call me.
Hey, Ergy, listen. Can you hold out for 5 more years? He might go more than 5 years, but it might be like, 7, 8.
Yeah. I definitely think it'll take longer than he thinks it will.
Yeah, a lot of times manga underestimate kind of their final story arcs. If they go take them a certain amount of time, and it just takes them a fair bit more.
Yeah. So we've talked about what we liked worse in the series. What do you like best in it?
Well, I think I already mentioned Luffy and Zoro. I liked Usopp a lot as well. I was really kind of worried about Usopp. I really wanted to get Usopp's story right. His old like tall tales and stuff.
The boy who cried wolf.
Yes, the boy who cried wolf, essentially.
Or pirate.
And I definitely thought it was really corny when he's telling tall tales to Kaya.
Yes.
Kaya. I think Kaya, the actor who plays Kaya, is a nice, pretty young woman. At first, I thought they had makeup her up or something to like look sick or something.
That's just how she looks.
Yeah, just how she looks. I'm sorry. But when I first saw her, like, oh my god, what did they do to Kaya? Because I think in the anime she just looks like generic cute anime girl.
Just like plain blonde.
Yeah.
Frail.
Well, whereas the actor who plays Kaya has like really sharp features.
Her eyes are like really sunken in too.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I first saw it, I was like, damn, they like really just like, they're injecting her with that poison and it's really like killing her. But so like they have that scene between her and Kaya where, I forget what, I think it was like something with a goldfish. She's like, then a big goldfish pooped or something. I thought that was really corny. I was okay with it, but then I read online, people thought it was really, really cute. People were really into that. So like, okay, maybe I'm just like a turbo Scrooge with a tiny heart. No,
I mean their story is really cute. The what happens with Kaya is kind of like definitely one of the more like serious notes in the beginning of the series. Like this girl's being poisoned by people, and like her parents are dead, and like everything that could be happening horribly for her is happening, kind of thing. But even though she just doesn't know. Yeah. I like you was worried about Usopp. One, because they weren't doing like CGI or prosthetics for his nose. Like everybody knows he has like that long Pinocchio nose.
Right.
But Jacob Gibson, like his nose is still so like stand out in like a unique way on his face that I'm fine with it.
That works.
Like it like his nose isn't long, but it's so distinctive that I'm like it makes sense to me.
It works, and obviously important. Even more important than nose. The actor really did feel like Usopp to me. The actor really felt like he's that guy who talks so much shit all the time, always just lying out through his teeth. But when the cards are down, he's gonna like stick with you, come through. He's not gonna be the most graceful hero, but he is there for the fight. Right?
Yeah. Well, I was worried at the beginning, like when they first started showing him, because at times he felt like a little expressionless, like at certain scenes. But then there were other scenes that he made up for it, like in spades. I really like that he did his kind of trick with the hot sauce and like faking dead. Like that's such an Usopp play. I love it so much. But I'm really interested to see how Jacob Gibson does with the Water 7 and the Enies Lobby arcs are very important for Usopp, and so I'm really curious to see how Jacob Gibson handles those back-to-back really essential arcs for that character. We haven't talked about Nami or Sanji at all yet, though.
No, so Sanji, I like the actor.
Taz Skyler.
Yeah, I like they do feel like Sanji. Well, they tone back Sanji's like
he wasn't
women
like screaming and crawling all over Nami.
Yeah, but like in a realistic way, he is like a horned dog. He is like
you do see him like hitting on multiple women in the like his 2 or 3 episodes that he's there.
Yeah,
and then like I think it's the final episode, or maybe the end of the second to last episode actually, like when he sees Nami coming back down like their dirt road without going into detail. He's like, Nami! Like, just like excited to see her, but doesn't like go swarm her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's kind of like stocky. He's thicker than like you're used to seeing Sanji. Who's
He's
like
built.
He's really like Sanji's really thin in the comics, right? But yeah, like this is a thick boy. The kicks look okay. Like by far, Zoro's fighting is the most impressive because I think the actor has experience with swords.
Yeah, from other projects he's been in like quite a bit of things. The recent, I forgot what the actual name was, but the Saint Seiya theatrical release that just came out recently, he was in that.
Okay.
And there's like a few other different like anime adaptation things that he's been in.
Yeah, so like Zoro just looks super natural with his swords. And then Sanji with his kicks, it looks fine, but it's obviously like flipping on harnesses and wires and stuff. So it's just movie magic or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, and on Zoro looking more natural, like there's been a behind the scenes thing for McKenny like saying that Zoro's his favorite and it's always been like a dream to play him. So I feel like he really brought his passion to Zoro as well.
Yeah, I think it shows. Like I said, I think Zoro's like the best next to Luffy in the series. So yeah, I'm pretty positive on Sanji. They did smart massaging of his character, so he doesn't come off as a date rapist. Yeah. Just attacking every woman he sees.
I was a little kind of saddened about one aspect for Sanji though. Like I think Taskgiver did a phenomenal job with him, and I agree that like the way he was doing the kicks and the French name call outs and the callback to Luffy saying all the best fighters like name their moves was adorable as well. And Zoro being like, you're gonna fit right in, buddy. But there's one scene that's kind of like pivotal for Sanji's character, and they even like put it on like a Dawn card for the trading card game. It's in the show, spoilers for second to last episode, Sanji, like he's saying goodbye to Zeph, he's yelling from the back of the Going Merry, but in the manga and the anime, he's on the deck of the Baratier, like bowed down, like with his head and like bawling his eyes out, just saying like thank you for everything, and like all the insulting stuff he still says to Zeph, but also like thank you so much for everything you did for me.
That is one unfortunate thing about this adaptation, is that they did not bring over the full-on ugly crying that is in the One Piece manga and anime. People cried, his face get distorted. It just like people
you
just
see the tears, but it's not like they aren't just bawling their eyes out like this. Actually, that's a good transition to Nami. Is the pivotal Nami scene of like Luffy help me, like that was still done really well. It's weird that it was so like dark, but I wanted more tears out of Emily Rudd for that scene.
Well, I think she had it
more like a whale, I guess.
she had it for like the other scenes though. Like there's a lot because that's Navi's plot line is the stuff in Cocoa Village,
yeah, on the Konomi Islands.
Yeah, where she's taken the role of being like a pirate collaborator / member of the pirates, so that she can one day buy off the village and make him go free. But the village doesn't know that, so she has this, keeping it a secret, suffering kind of role. And overall, I agree that scene, it wasn't quite the catharsis that I like from the anime.
But she did deliver that kind of like bawling her eyes out ish when she's crying at Belmare's grave.
Yeah. So like overall, like in that arc, you do see that coming out from her. But Douglas said something in the podcast, and I think he might be right. It felt like the boys were allowed to be a little bit more reserved, when I felt like the boys should have been pushed to just be all blubbery and crying. But they let Nami just go a little further. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit, whether it was intentional or not, that's an unfortunate part of the production, where I really would have wanted to see just the boys Zoro did a pretty good job of his "I'll never lose again" kind of line.
No, he did, and I think you could see him crying in that scene too.
Yeah.
So.
It's just they should have cried more. Yeah. That's what I say.
So one thing that I wanted to make sure to really touch on when we were doing this video is both a great love and a great frustration at the same time. It's the same second half, first half of an episode section that I both loved and was also really annoyed with. So for me, I love Mihawk, and I think that. And sorry, I don't remember his name, but the actor that they chose for Mihawk did very well. His contacts nailed it, wonderful. I so look forward to seeing him later. And his scene going and delivering the wanted poster to Shanks as well was also great.
That wasn't in the anime, right?
Yeah.
It was?
Delivering the wanted poster, it's also in the books.
I thought Shanks found the wanted poster on the posting, but maybe I just misremembered.
I'll double check it. But Shanks does see the wanted poster. I'm pretty sure Mihawk delivered it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, Dakuzu will correct me. I'm so sorry. It's been a few years. I did not reread this before the show. I should have. But so, anyways, as I was saying, the part that I really liked, and it's one of my favorite moments in the series, is the part with Zoro confronting Mihawk. And, it didn't happen in the show, but Mihawk's supposed to just kind of roll up on his little coffin, single person coffin ship with the little candles lit on the side, just kind of sitting there what's up guys kind of thing. But I absolutely love the scene where Zoro just kind of accepts it, the outcome of the battle, and says scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. Mm-hmm. It's such a powerful move moment for me in the show, knowing that Zoro is my favorite. But what I was really frustrated with is still in that same vein. At the same time that Mihawk shows up, they're supposed to be fighting, the Baratier crew is supposed to be fighting the Dawn Creek pirates that they show Mihawk fighting right before he comes to the Baratier.
The guy, if you watch the Netflix show, but you have no familiarity with the anime or manga, the guy that Mihawk just slices up in his introduction was actually the main villain of that little arc
for the Baratier.
And Mihawk just kind of shows up out of nowhere during that scene.
Yeah,
and then they have an aside with Zoro. He fights him. But yeah, I couldn't. I knew it wasn't Mihawk, but I couldn't remember what pirate because he's a relatively small character.
Yeah, so his name is Dawn Krieg. Actually, that reminds me, when they introduced both Mihawk and Dawn Krieg and Buggy and a couple other people, I really liked the animation effect they did with showing their wanted posters and then just taking it out of the air and crumpling it or slicing it or whatever.
So, yeah.
That's a little side note. But it is the Dawn Krieg pirates. Dawn Krieg is a low-level villain in the East Blue. It doesn't really matter. That's why you don't remember his name. But for that little Baratier section, he is very important. And they almost delivered it. So in the episode at the Baratier, remember there's a section where this guy is starving and Sanji's he's starving, we feed him.
Right, yeah.
That pirate that he fed is on Dawn Krieg's crew. And it's supposed to be a pivotal moment where he has to fight the guy that he just fed, and that kind of moral dilemma that they're having.
Okay.
That's an important piece that I felt was missing, and that's why I was so frustrated with that section. But I also love the Baratier section at the same time. Okay,
yeah. So that's also Dakuzu brought that up as well. I think Sanji and that character have a really big bromance or something, right?
Well, not so much a bromance, just I guess kind of. They after the fact they connect really well, but it's short lived. They go their separate ways, obviously.
He's almost like a nothing character in the
long
Netflix.
term.
When the Netflix anime, he's just there to
he's
show
just
off that.
Yeah, you can kind of connect the dots maybe that he was part of Dawn Krieg's crew because it's right after they show Mihawk decimating them and cutting their ship in half, which he does do that.
Uh-huh.
But like he's just like, oh yeah, I'm like one of the remaining members of our crew that just got destroyed the other day or whatever. And so you kind of like connect the dots that way, but it doesn't have the same emotional impact. Which actually, that reminds me of one thing when we were talking about Sanji. I think Sanji's backstory is the most compelling of all the Straw Hats for me.
Yeah. And they did a pretty good job with it in this show. They spent the time. Let's put a pin in that, and I just want to complain about something.
Okay, go for it.
One of the things I dislike about the Netflix show is how they would split a flashback throughout a whole episode or 2 episodes, because they give you piecemeal, because they want to do kind of like the whole parallel building storyline, when sometimes I think it's just better for the story. I think it's more appropriate for them to just show you 20 minutes of flashback and then go back to the show, and not show you like 5 minutes and then it cuts back and like, why are we even watching that?
Like Zoro climbing up the well and seeing like Kuina over and over and over. Like,
yeah, and like I felt like the Sanji one, and maybe it's just me misremembering, but I feel like the Sanji one, they stuck with the flashback on the piece of rock where they were starving for like 85 days or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's an insane amount of time. Definitely an unrealistic real world like amount of time. But
he's got a long leg.
Yeah.
Okay.
The child would have starved.
Yeah. So like.
And also like vomited all of that moldy bread. I did like that they kept that detail of like moldy bread.
Yeah.
And also like other simple details like Sanji calling Zoro Mosshead and Zoro calling Sanji like a shitty cook or whatever.
Yeah, waiter as well.
Yeah, a waiter.
Yeah. The Sanji storyline, they let it breathe in that scene, and they didn't keep cutting back and forth. And I wish the other story, the other flashback, it's okay if they cut back once or twice, but for some of those flashbacks they cut back like 8-10 times. Yeah. I'm like, let the story happen. Don't just like break it up so much. Again, I think that's very modern television. They like to do that in modern television, and I think it's wrong-headed.
I definitely think like the Luffy Shanks section was broken up a bit like too much.
Yeah. How do you like Shanks?
I did like Shanks.
He looked like Adrian Brody to me.
He did, yeah, kind of. Well, what's his name? I can't remember his name, but the actor that plays Garp, wonderful accent. I love it. I could listen to him all day. Please do an audiobook.
Oh, when Garp and Zeph were going at it,
yes.
What is this weird BBC show?
But I love to listen to them to speak. Just listening to them. But so the guy that plays Garp, he kind of like at certain points he had similar. I can't remember the actor's name, but he had like a very strong semblance to somebody else that's very like a prominent actor.
Garp. I think I know what you're talking about. I could kind of see it.
It'll come to me, but way after we finish this, I'm sure.
Yeah. If Amber informs me of this actor and I'm still editing this video, he will appear right here. I can't wait to put Pee Wee Herman up there or something like that.
No! It's not Pee Wee Herman. It is another British actor, but I don't remember.
Idris Elba.
No. It's not Sean Connery. It can't be.
No. And he's Scottish, please.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Please.
So one other thing I forgot to mention, we were talking about Zoro, because I'm going to keep talking about Zoro. He's my favorite. I love him. I love some of the little, like, subtle essence nods that they did for Zoro that are, like, funnier moments and, like, comedy relief for sure in their show, but they did it so subtly in the live action. So, for example, and it's like a huge meme everywhere that Zoro always gets lost.
Yes.
Like, he'll appear, like, in memes where he's just, like, his face or body or whatever, like, appears in some other anime or manga or whatever. Like, Zoro's just lost again, don't worry about it.
Often or
Well, so they didn't, like, joke about that as much, but they included it on at least 2 occasions that I remember in the show. So...
Yeah, with the... When Luffy gets free from the Marines... And going back to the mansion.
That's the second one, yeah.
What's the first one?
The first one, they're both in the mansion section. So okay. The first one is when they like first settle in at the mansion and get changed and everything, and he meets, I think it was with Luffy and maybe Nami in the hall, and he's like, oh, I'm looking for the kitchen to like find a drink, and he is like walking the opposite direction of everyone else. And they're like, oh, it's back like this way or whatever, and they like he like turns around and goes, this is the way of the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's like a very like subtle thing to catch. But then the second time was what you're talking about. So Luffy is captured by Kobe and Helmeppo because he's unconscious, he's been poisoned. Well, he poisoned himself, honestly. But so out in the woods, Zoro shows up and like is there to help save Luffy or whatever, but he didn't like go there to save Luffy. He went there because he was trying to find his way from the well to the mansion and ended up in the complete opposite direction. So it's just like another subtle noise, like, oh, I got lost. Like he actually like verbalized about it that time. Yeah. So it was more noticeable and funny that way.
He was like he thought he was going towards the mansion, but he was going away from it.
Yeah, the complete opposite way, which is what it usually is. And then also like Zoro's love of drinking, that came across loud and clear throughout the show too.
Let's put a pin in that because we want to talk about kind of how adult the show is sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah. So what else?
I want to say there was something else about the characters, but it's like character specific, but it's like slipping my mind.
Do you feel that they gave Luffy too much like internal like turmoil when Nami was away? Because I feel like Luffy in the anime, and I haven't read that much of the manga, but in the anime he's like, "It'll be okay. It's gonna be okay. Nami will just come back to us. Let's just go get her." Like, and he in the Netflix show he was like, "What is it like to be a captain? What is it like to be a leader?" And he was really like just struggling.
He does struggle a bit more in the live action, but I was okay with it. Like it felt more honest. Like even though Luffy is a very easygoing, lighthearted character, and he's always smiling, which was very common in the show as well, as like a kind of a goofy moment. But at the same time, whenever Luffy is not smiling, that's when everybody needs to be afraid because he will give everything for his friends.
Yeah. And
like even though she betrays him, like Luffy, like Nami is Luffy's friend, whether she wants to be or not.
Right.
And like actually that reminds me, the scene that I mentioned earlier where like Nami is telling Luffy like please help me, and he puts the hat on her and everything. The scene where it pans out to Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp at the end of the driveway kind of thing, like that's also in the manga and anime. Like that they're like just sitting there waiting like for her to just like ask for their help. Right. And I felt like that was also a really like well delivered section, even though it was so dark.
Very dark. Lighting
dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a heavy moment, but like lighting dark.
Yeah, I think those scenes worked. I kind of felt like when Luffy finally defeats Arlong, he screams like, "Nami, we're friends," or whatever. I feel like that didn't hit as right as it should have. I don't know if it was just like whatever. If it's just like subjective, it's just me, but like the whole like the whole idea of being a straw hat pirate is just like 100% committed to like the people and like
following your dream,
and but also like Luffy will do anything for one of his crewmates, right? So like it's just like that, like that catharsis of finally understanding that like Nami, she has a friend no matter what, like through thick and thin, and her captain. If it didn't, again, it's subjective. It didn't really hit as well for me. I don't know if you have any opinions about that.
No, I mean that makes sense. There's a lot of moments throughout the series that Luffy has to have those more serious moments, and especially in like the Water 7 and Enies Lobby arc that I mentioned earlier, those are huge, prolonged moments of turmoil for Luffy and his crew, and like how he gets along with them. That like this is kind of a hint to that form, like that seriousness, like building that there is that undercurrent of he's not always just joking. And I think that's kind of important to kind of build.
Okay, fair. Okay, can we talk a little bit about the cussing and the cutting and the drinking? You can't watch this show at church. If you watch this show at church, you'll be smited. There's a lot of cussing. Most of all, I actually felt it was pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
And they kind of fit a lot of the characters. Like Luffy isn't cussing a lot, if at all.
I think maybe like once.
But like.
But it was like an appropriate moment.
But
I think.
but you know, Buggy's calling people shitheads and stuff like that because he's just really asshole person.
Yeah. Zoro does it quite a bit. He also is the heavy drinker.
Yeah. He's also the heavy cutter, cutting people in half.
Yeah.
Was that a big shocker for you when they caught was it like number 7, which they grabbed from way later in the series?
Yeah,
right?
that he was there kind of like was a surprise to me. Yeah. Like, why are they talking about Baroque works right now? But I kind of get it because they like trying to recruit Zoro is a thing. So, but it was like a kind of early moment.
He cuts that character in half and like they show it.
Yeah.
So
just like slides really slow.
Finish. But what's interesting though is that like one thing that actually stuck in Dagu's craw a lot. Dagu's complaining about this a lot. Like he just wouldn't shut up about this. Was when he found Mihawk and he got slashed, and they're like, "Oh my god!"
That wasn't as graphic.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh my god, look at how much blood!" And like there wasn't that much blood.
Yes, it was just like a little trickle.
Yeah. Like I mean, it looked like a deep cut. But it looked like it was dried out, or it looked like it was already coagulated.
Yeah,
like,
I'll agree with Dr. on that. Like it definitely was not enough on that Zoro Mihawk cut.
Yeah,
it should have been like this.
It should have been all red.
It should have been like fully across his chest and like very bloody and like much clearer that he's about to die.
Yeah, it should have looked like he was dead already. It should have looked like all the blood was outside of him. Because they were like, look at how much blood, and there wasn't any blood at all.
Yeah. And like even if they weren't gonna like show the wound so much like bloody and everything, to at least like bloody the clothes a lot.
Yes, yeah, I 100% agree. I don't understand why they could show somebody being cut in half, but why they'd hold off on just blooding up Zoro like that.
Yeah, well, and like that's not the only weird thing in the show as far as like production choices though. Like our friend was going on about like some of the cool like camera things that they've done, and I just didn't even respond to him because like in my opinion there was a lot of weird camera angles in the show, like especially when they first get to the Konomi Islands, I think it is, or no, not the Konomi Islands, wherever it is that Kaya's mansion is, like the shipbuilding town, Syrup Village, that's what it is.
Syrup Village.
Syrup Village.
Syrup.
There's 2 syllables there. Syrup.
Syrup.
So when they first get there, they like go to this bulletin board, and there's a lot of wanted posters there. It does a lot of like really intense like fisheye close-ups on their faces.
No, it is constantly like it's not just that episode. They're always getting
but
right up on somebody's
really,
chin.
Like, faded in their background, like they had the fisheye type lens on it, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a reason for this, and then there wasn't. I'm like, what is going on with this camera? And like, my husband walked in. I think it was the 4th episode I was watching, and he's like, "What is with this camera angle?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's not just me.
No.
Thank you."
The Cowboy Bebop show was also like that.
Okay,
like,
maybe it's just tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah. The Cowboy Bebop show was always also like that. It was like, oh, we have a conversation scene, camera. And then with the camera, it's just like it really gets up on their face.
It's really right up in there.
Like you get so much chin and nostril all the time from these actors. I think it makes the show look cheap sometimes.
In retrospect, we should have started this episode with the camera right in our faces.
No, y'all don't want to see that.
It's fair. I don't want my face being that close.
Definitely weird.
Definitely weird. Not weird is I really liked that they included the original opening "We Are" a couple times in the show.
Times when they get the merry-go-round.
The Going Merry, yes.
Yes. And at the very last episode, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them didn't have like the words; it was just instrumental. But you could tell, like, if you were familiar with it.
They're both instrumental. I thought one of them had words. Did I miss the words?
I could have swore I heard "We Are" at one point.
I think your brain was filling it in.
That's fair. Like in my head, I've heard it so many times. I was just like, "We are." Like,
so this is a complaint I have about the show, and I talked about this on other podcasts. I think that like a lot of like the music is too generic.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
But
it's good.
20 some odd years of music they could have pulled.
Yes,
but they did do that actually. Sorry, I'll circle back. I'll circle back. Continue about the music because this is a small tangent, but sort of related.
No, I'll go ahead. Because okay. I don't have that much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, speaking of like pulling, kind of like iconic things from the series, I think that they did a really good job pulling in costumes from the series, like specific outfits that are worn.
Yes.
And like nailing them.
Yes.
Like when I was setting the books for the East Blue arc up here on the table, like on the cover of one of the omnibus editions is the outfit that Zoro wears in Kai's mansion, like the black with the gold silk shirt underneath.
Yeah. Like
right there on the cover, and I'm like, oh yes. And then there's certain outfits that like Nami wears that are very like iconic. Like in the mansion, she wears that Chinese style dress.
Yes.
That is also iconic. Different outfits that Luffy wears. Like, of course, like Sanji always is in a suit.
Luffy one time had like a Hawaiian shirt on, and I was like, why does he have a Hawaiian shirt on?
But that shirt is like in the series as well.
Okay. I would like, that's weird.
He wears Hawaiian shirts a few times.
Okay.
I thought it was a really good like attention to detail thing with the costumes.
Yeah. You know, the costuming, sometimes it looks kind of cheap and cosplay, but most of the time it looks like really good and identifiable, you know.
One other thing that I wanted to make sure we talked about today is that the Japanese dub of the live action One Piece Netflix show contains not all, but predominantly the same voice actors from the anime. So I think it's Mayumi Tanaka, that's her name, right? For Luffy?
I don't know, I just know that she does Krillin, so.
Okay. Well, same thing with the, like...
Kinzan!
Same thing with, like, the Zoro voice actor. Like, I know he's Captain Obi from Fire Force as well. But, anyways, so, I shared with Darfox a clip of that, like, the original voice actors for Luffy and Zoro over... one of the scene where Zoro's like laying on the bed and wakes up from his vicious stabbing that wasn't apparent, like visually as vicious as we discussed.
His bloody slash was very neat.
Yes.
It sounded good. I could. Doctors had a complaint about this Japanese dub that because they were matching the English voices, their voice would break up too often. Kind of thing, because they had to match the English speaking actors, whereas in the anime it kind of goes the opposite way. Mm-hmm. The anime matches the dub actors or Japanese actors. Sorry,
can't lose your hat.
No, I can't lose my hat. And I could kind of see it in that scene a little bit, but that scene, the scene that I just watched. It was supposed to be kind of like an emotional scene. Yeah. So
you could definitely like hear the emotion in their voices. Luffy's voice actor, she sounded pretty good over Inaki Goroy. Yeah. But the voice actor for Zoro, it didn't quite fit Makenyu's body to like just looking at them.
The Zoro voice actor sounds like they're 80 years old. It sounds like they're really, really old.
It's not so much that he's old, he's just like a lot deeper and gruff. I mean, definitely older, but not like 80.
Like 70.
Just knock off a decade.
But I mean, it sounds good though. It sounds good vocal performances. If you really like, if you really like the One Piece stuff, it might be a good way to watch it. But I'd say stick with the original audio and hear the actors act it out. You know.
The one. So it's not so much something else. Now that we've kind of talked this over, we're getting ready to say goodbye to Romance Dawn and the East Blue. As they're about to enter the Grand Line. Overall, what did you think of it, just like as a whole? I know we've had like a lot of positives and negatives throughout this conversation, but like on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it?
Just like as a TV show,
as just like the first season.
Yeah, I'd give it either a solid 7 or 8. You know, I think that it's a nice season of a TV show. It kind of wraps up well enough if there's never ever a season 2, which I doubt there won't be. I'm pretty sure there will be. It wraps up fine, kind of like an open-ended wrap up. And I think it was entertaining. It was a good time. Well made. Impressive feat to adapt One Piece and make it work.
I would agree. I would give it probably around a 7.5 as well out of 10.
0.6. So.
Just add like little decimals to one of each other, you know? It's fine. But no, I would agree. I think they adapted the story very, very well, as far as just like really trying to be as faithful as possible. And I'm sure that a lot of that had to do with Oda's involvement. Because I know that, like they said, they had to reshoot a lot of things at his request. But the changes that they made as far as like Garp and Don Krieg, some of that is frustrating, like I said, with the Baratier stuff, but like the Garp stuff I was okay with that change. I felt they connected it pretty well. And maybe we just won't have to see them for quite a while. But I'm excited for Kobe's glow up in the future, so.
Did you know that Kobe's actor is a trans actor?
I did not.
I didn't know either. Actually, when we were recording the podcast, Don from the Anime Nostalgia podcast was in our chat, and they let us know. And I had actually just seen this actor in Evil Dead Rises. I don't know if you've seen Evil Dead Rises or not.
Not at all.
But Evil Dead Rises is about like a family that gets attacked by the Deadites, possessed / attacked, and it's a single mother, one brother and 2 younger sisters. And the brother is the Kobe actor. I didn't even realize it because Kobe's really like
bright pink hair.
Bright pink. And Kobe looks pretty like artificial in this show.
Goggle glasses.
Like Kobe looks like an anime character in this show, or like for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't really connect. But apparently they're a trans actor. And that's actually like really great to hear.
Yeah.
Because it's the best case scenario where people just are given chances, they're given roles, they're given the opportunity to work, and it isn't like, at least I haven't seen any big shit shows about it online or anything. I
haven't either, and maybe that's just like people don't even know, but that's also like really great for them.
Yeah, they did like they got a role and they did a really good job with it. They're very like, is manic the right word? They're very like nervous,
They definitely get like early Kobe just right, and I am very excited to see time skip Kobe as well.
I don't think we'll see a time skip Kobe. I think we just see Kobe over time, because I think they'll bring them back for season 2 if they do it.
Well, yeah, but the Kobe's appearance massively changes in the time skip that happens.
There's a time skip. No, I knew that.
Not everybody looks the same. Yeah.
No, I feel better for Nami.
Actually, there's one more thing that we meant to talk about that we completely forgot about.
What that?
Our buddy Jinbei here.
Oh, well, we could talk about Jinbei and also various other call forwards. They do mention stuff that have like no bearing to like the current storyline. But Jinbei is one of them.
Yeah, so Arlong in the second to last either second to last or the last episode, mentions Jinbei. And Jinbei is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, like Mihawk, at this point in time. And Jinbei is a fisherman pirate. He can use fisherman karate like one of Arlong's soldiers does. And, spoiler, later, the helmsman of the Straw Hat crew. He's the most recent addition to the crew. Although technically, in the anime, he's not fully part of the crew until they finish the Wano arc and party together. But
spoiler for the anime.
I mean, it's already happened in the manga. But anyways, so Arlong brings up an important facet of the One Piece world, and that's that fishmen were enslaved for a long time in that universe. That becomes a major point of contention in both the Sabri arc as well as the Fisherman Island arc. Those are both very important things. And actually also in Whole Cake Island a little bit as well. And so, like...
What about Pukiwaki arc, though? What about that one?
I don't know.
I was just
It's not an arc!
You kept on naming arcs and they were all like these weird sound effects.
Sorry, I'm just throwing names out there.
Well, it's just that their names so weird. So.
Yeah, the names are... I mean, Whole Cake Island, like what?
Like a whole cake?
I'm looking forward to that whole cake. There's a cake on Whole Cake, actually. It's a wedding cake, but that's spoilers. We're not going to get into
It's
that.
not the other kind of cake.
Irrelevant spoiler for the moment. So, the... What was I saying? Yes, so slavery is something that happens in the One Piece world.
Slavery is bad, okay?
Yes, let's make that clear. Slavery is bad. But for the case of the fishmen, they mentioned that slavery has been abolished, and that is generally the case throughout the One Piece world. But there is still slavery that happens later on in the series as kind of like an underground black market that involves the world government. Because one of the main themes that is kind of like an underlying mystery still in the One Piece world is very much a fuck the government kind of thing.
Yeah. I've heard that. It doesn't really come through yet. It doesn't hit until much, I'd say at least a couple of seasons, maybe 3 or 4 seasons, maybe 4 or 5 seasons, I would guess. If they're doing like an arc a season, we would have Baroque Works, Skypiea, Water 7, and then Paramount War and Impel Down. Reverse order that, but yes. Black Hawk Down?
Yeah, Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down.
In Impel Prison. But so, like, there's a moment that I'm not going to spoil here, that is the turning point in the series right before the time skip. And that changes everything.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right before everything changes, we get to see more of that kind of underground in the Sabri section, because that's right before that pivotal moment. And that's where they show a little bit of like the slave market and the dragons that still own slaves in the world government, or celestial dragons that have power. And so slavery is not absent, but it's not legal as the way it used to be with the fishmen, and it's still like an important dark undertone in this kind of jovial series.
Wow. You got a lot to look forward to if you're a One Piece Netflix live action fan. It's a long title. People are calling it Oopla.
Oopla?
Yeah, like
Okay with
OPLA.
that.
Yeah.
Well, so
What's Oopla?
One Piece live action.
You will say, not much was Oopla with you.
Oh my gosh. Get out of here with that. Well, so, okay, for you take 2. For you Oopla fans.
Yeah. First timers.
Yeah, who have not read the manga or watched the anime, what are you going to expect in season 2? So without giving too much away, at the very end, the very last thing you see in season 1 is a man at his desk with 2 cigars burning Luffy's wanted poster. So the character that is in that scene is Smoker, who is one of the Marines.
He's a long time recurring.
Yeah, he's a
adversary.
reoccurring rival for the Straw Hats throughout the series. And so they'll pick up, it's still technically the end of the East Blue arc, the Logetown arc is where they'll go next. Logetown is the town that Gold Roger was executed in. First things first, they gotta get Zoro some new swords, because he lost 2.
Yeah.
But he still has the Wado Ichimonji, which is also very important for current Wano arc of the anime. Then they have to go back to this Baroque works that they hinted at a few times in Opla.
Yeah.
And then Baroque works also, they'll be on the Grand Line and include the Alabasta Kingdom arc. And you'll get to meet the owner of this hat here as well. That's what I'm foreseeing for season 2.
Is that where do you meet Robin there as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll meet Robin, you'll meet...
She appears, but she's not like...
She's a villain in the Alabasta arc.
Right.
So you'll get to meet Robin. You'll get to meet another Warlord of the Sea, Crocodile. You'll get to meet Vivi, Nefeltari Vivi.
I don't know who Vivi is.
The Blue Lord.
Oh, Blue Girl.
Yeah,
okay,
Blue Girl.
I know all about Blue Girl, except for her name.
Yeah. Well, the girl that you were like, hey, is she a Straw Hat earlier? You'll get to meet her. Yeah. She should be throughout a good portion of the season, the second season. But yeah, so there's a lot of major points that will happen in the second season as well, along with, I imagine, any season. There's always stuff in every arc that's important. But I hope that it's longer than 8 episodes for the second one, because there's a lot to cover with Baroque works in the Alabasta Kingdom and gaining... Actually, you'd also get to meet Chopper, because Chopper comes before Robin.
2020 Chopper.
Yeah. So Tony Chopper, adorable doctor, because everyone on the Straw Hat crew has a role. So when Zoro was like dying from his knot wound, they needed a doctor. The ship needs to get a doctor, and so that'll be the next crew member to come, followed by Robin.
All right.
So yeah.
A lot to look forward to for the first timers, the Oopalas out there.
All the Opala. Final thoughts? If you haven't.
One Piece class of 2023.
Woo!
All right. Well, thank you, RG Bombshell, for guiding me through all of this One Piece. And thank you for watching the video. If you made it this far, you gotta do one of the things I asked you to in the beginning. Either like it, or either subscribe it, or either comment it. Just one of those things, you know what I'm saying?
Or, all of them. That's also cool.
Well, one of them would be, or all of them would be great. One of them is required. If you made it this far, it's required.
You have homework. It's to like, comment, and or subscribe.
But either way, thank you for watching the video. It's fun to record these with Amber. And when I finally get them edited and put up, in my credit, the ones about movies and TV shows I usually put up.
This one is time sensitive.
Yes. When I don't take more than a year to put them up, I put them up in about a week-ish. And that's my plan for this one. So once again, thanks for watching, and we shall see you out there in the world.